Who was the best at this year's Best Awards? Yet another Super League proposal just dropped. And where will football's best free agents land in 2025? That and more on Wednesday's Morning Kick Around. Hello and welcome to the show. This is Morning Kick Around, where we cover the world's favorite game from the world's most entertaining country, coming to you live each Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and on demand everywhere on the Morning Kick Around YouTube channel. I'm Robert Kerr, happy to be joined by the host of When Alda Talks Football each and every afternoon on Sirius XM-FC, Mr. Jason Davis. How you feeling?
I'm doing okay. This is going to be a fun one. I'm excited. The reanimated corpse of the Super League is back. I mean, I guess the Super League's I don't know. I don't know what this is, but we'll get into it. I'm looking forward to it, Rob.
Yeah, the Super League always lurking around each and every corner. And I don't know if you know this, Jason, but we hit 2 months on the internet, the Morning Kick Around channel, 2 months strong. We've hit 200 videos on the channel. Plenty of conversations, wide variety of topics. Gio Reyna, Pulisic injury, the American bias, just our American takes on the Euro leagues, and our niche of American soccer being weird.
Yeah. I'm realizing that the lighting in my studio is really blowing out my Tulsa Athletic logo here. You can barely see what I'm wearing because the gold is just so bright. Look at that. Shout out to Tulsa Athletic for this jersey that I'm wearing today. I might as well highlight some of the glorious American soccer things that we bring to the show.
One of our favorite conversations we've had was the weirdest names in American soccer history, and Tulsa, the Roughnecks, one of our favorite teams that we featured.
Yeah, Roughnecks. What is a roughneck anyway? Oh, that's an oil industry reference. The guys that go out there and like twist all the pipes around and stuff. I think that's what a roughneck is, right, Rob?
Yeah, according to my Twitter X feed, that's what real men do for their jobs.
Oh, okay. Yeah, real men are out there. Hey, you can make a lot of money doing that. It's very dangerous, though. So be careful. Be careful.
Speaking of social media, follow the show at MKickAround on X, Instagram, and the Blue Sky. And send us an email if you'd like, morningkickaround@gmail.com. I think I'm ready for some Wednesday long balls. You ready?
Let's go. Let's do it.
All right, let's kick it. All right, long ball number one here on Wednesday morning. Emma Hayes, the women's, won the Best Coach of the Year award at the FIFA Best Award. If you don't know, FIFA Best is FIFA's global soccer awards voted on by players, I think national team captains and media members. And seemed like kind of makeup calls for some of the misses at the Ballon d'Or. But let's start it all off. I mean, some Americans got awarded, but let's start off at the top of the list. Emma Hayes wins the FIFA Best Award for Women's Coach of the Year.
Yeah, I mean, hard to deny that she deserves it, right? She won a gold medal with the U.S. women's national team. Obviously there was that period where we were waiting for her to arrive from England, and we had to but obviously for her to move from the English game, where she was extremely successful, into international football and winning a gold medal really makes it hard to argue she shouldn't have won this award. It's, I guess, is this a season award from 2023 into 2024, or is this a calendar year award because we're at the end of 2024? I guess that kind of matters. But I don't know. Emma Hayes is great. That's all I know.
Other American winners. Alyssa Nair wins female goalkeeper of the year, and in the top 11 included 3 Americans. We talked about it on the show. There was no Americans in the World 11, but at the Best Awards.
The FIFA Pro, let make sure we're clear. The FIFA Pro 11, which is the players' vote, didn't have any Americans in it, and we were like, what the hell? At least give our girl Naomi Girma some love. Mm-hmm. She's incredible. And here the FIFA Best Awards have at least put to rest some of the notion that there is a bias against Americans, maybe in the women's game. You mentioned, okay, go ahead. Tell us what Americans made this group.
Let me clarify. The best award recipients were voted on by fans, current captains, and coaches of national teams and media representatives. And in the FIFA Best 11, it had included Alyssa Nair in goal, Lindsey Horan, and Naomi Girma. So 3 Americans make the top 11 on the women's game, and that seems a little bit more logical than the FIFA Pro list, which didn't have a single one. But like you said, Naomi Girma, at the very least, that was like a little bit jarring that the players wouldn't have voted for her, and she wasn't new on the scene or anything like that. I really couldn't wrap my head around, other than it being forward heavy. I couldn't understand why Girma would be missed out.
No, I mean, we talked about this. That is a list. That is the FIFA Pro Award voted on by players around the world, members of FIFA Pro. Clearly had a very heavy European bias. There are lots more players plying their trade professionally in Europe than there are in North America. And Naomi Girma, as great as she's been for the U.S. Women's National Team, and they won the gold medal at the Olympics, clearly there was some, hey, the club game in Europe is really where we're paying attention. And so you had 5 English players. You had, I think, 3 Barcelona players. You did have Linda Caicedo, who is Colombian, and you had Marta, who is Brazilian. Marta, I think, on the weight of her reputation through the years and winning as many World Player of the Year awards as she did, is part of the reason she was there. And then Linda Caicedo, the up-and-coming incredible talent for Colombia, who plays for Real Madrid. So, again, heavy a European focus when it comes to the club game. And I'm guessing here that the FIFA Best Awards a little bit more aware of sort of the international tournaments. It's a FIFA award, right? So FIFA saying, hey, we held, we're the ones that organize world football at the top level. And although there are restrictions and it's not exactly the same with the men's game, in the women's game, the Olympic tournament is a massive tournament, and it would only make sense that a FIFA Best 11 for the year would reflect the success of the American women at the Olympics. I'm not sure Lindsey Horan is one of the best midfielders in the world at the moment, but, and she does, by the way,
anymore.
Plays her soccer, her club soccer in Europe. Important to mention that she's one of the few Americans who do. No, Lindsey Horan has been great. Whether this is also a bit of reputation carrying her forward, I think is a fair question to ask.
Yeah, it really is. And kind of my mind also makeup calls. Vinicius Jr., who famously did not win the Ballon d'Or, won the Best Award with Rodri coming in second. Aitana Bonmati won Best Player on the women's side.
Well, that's a Ballon d'Or echo. That's the same player who won the Ballon d'Or, as opposed to Rodri winning Ballon d'Or and Vinny winning the Best, FIFA Best. Bonmati's got both trophies.
And in a funny note, Marta won the first ever Marta Award for Goal of the Year for her goal for Brazil against Jamaica.
That's incredible. Winning an award with your name on it. Can we think of another example of that ever happening?
The LA Galaxy. The owner, isn't it the?
Anschutz won the Anschutz. Well, yeah, but the team won that. He owns the team. I get it. He kind of gets some. He's somewhat involved, and I guess his name's on the trophy. I don't know. I think that's a different kind of flavor. But yeah, you're right. The Philip Anschutz Award was handed to Philip Anschutz this season, so I guess that counts.
Has Lamar Hunt been awarded the Lamar Hunt Open Cup Award?
I think that was renamed after Lamar Hunt passed. So I think it would be difficult for Lamar Hunt to get his hands on the Lamar Hunt Trophy, as he's dead.
Fair enough. But I'm glad they didn't. I'm glad Marta's still with us. It's odd that they would name it while she was current, and she's still scoring goals. And there was always the danger, always the threat of her Marta winning the Marta Award.
Do you think they thought about that when they were like, okay, can we name this award for Marta? She's still playing. What if she scores an incredible goal? Does she win the award? And do you think there's then a built-in bias for handing out the award when people are like, "Oh, here's the award for the girl of the year," it's the Marta Award, and they're like, "Oh, Marta's nominated. Well, I gotta vote for Marta if she's nominated. She gotta win her own award." That feels unfair. The field seems to have been tilted in the direction of Marta. Not that I'm denying her greatness.
And also, Marta being runner-up for her own award would be out of the all in its own right.
Yeah, yeah. Imagine that, losing out on the Marta Award to somebody else, Linda Caicedo or something. That'd be pretty interesting. Yeah.
So we can all collectively, relax now. The FIFA Best Awards are done. We can all breathe easy.
Vinny Jr. probably not exactly mollified by winning this and not the Ballon d'Or, but hey, at least you won something and people recognized your greatness, and Real Madrid doesn't have to throw a tantrum. Oh, which they're so good at. Real Madrid are the best at throwing tantrums.
Have they
okay?
recovered from that fully yet? I'm not sure.
No, and they're still throwing tantrums over refereeing decisions in games that they just played and things like that. So it'll continue because that's who they are. That's who they are.
That's who they are. And we're going to move along to long ball number 2 here on Wednesday. There are a lot of players, a big long list of top players that are out of contract in 2025. And as we creep to the end of December, those players can start negotiating with new teams. Who I want to look at this list. Who might stay or leave? And then are there any prospects in this group for maybe an MLS move? Obviously, probably headlining the list would be the Liverpool big three of Trent Alexander-Arnold, Van Dijk, and Salah, and then shortly after that is Heung-min Son at Spurs, De Bruyne at City, and then the weekend hero Amad Diallo for United, also up for contract. Or any of these players? Do you think that stay, go? What do you think is on the way here?
Well, I mean, I don't know for sure. Obviously, I think the Liverpool trio is fascinating. We just talked about Jedi Robinson's performance at Anfield and whether he was auditioning to replace a fullback. I mean, it wouldn't be Trent Alexander-Arnold. He plays on the other side. But just the idea of them, building something beyond Trent Alexander-Arnold, who is still incredible. By the way, a year younger than Jedi Robinson, it's worth pointing out, or at least not a full year, but he's younger than Jedi Robinson. And I did see that kind of mentioned today. I was reading part of an ESPN column on Robinson. I know this is not about him, but just because it's tied to TAA. And the question of whether or not anybody would be willing to pay what Fulham wants for Robinson. So that might dictate, what kind of decisions Liverpool makes. Trent Alexander-Arnold has interest from the biggest clubs in the world. So if you're Liverpool, is it worth holding on to him? Is it worth trying to re-sign him, I guess, is the question. You're not going to get anything for him now. And as of January 1st, all of the players you're talking about can negotiate pre-contracts with teams going into the summer. And I do think it's interesting to wonder if a player like De Bruyne, who has been linked to San Diego at points, I don't know that. I think that's gone pretty quiet. I think Tom Bogert reported a little bit on that, and there maybe have been some mutual interest, but I don't know where we are. San Diego just added to their roster via the expansion draft. We've got the super draft, which isn't really a big lift in terms of your roster in MLS anymore, but that's coming up on Friday. Will Kevin De Bruyne be open to an MLS move? He's 33 years old. Like, if you're going to do it, if you're MLS, if you're going to do something like this, it kind of has to be now for a player like that. There's always the question of whether or not these guys are going to be able to adapt to life in MLS, not because the league is super strong. It's certainly not the level that De Bruyne is used to, but the travel, the lifestyle change, those kind of things, the varying in climates and altitudes that you have to play at in MLS. Those things are out there. Who else is on this list?
Heung-min Son, Amad Diallo, the duo at Bayern Munich of Alphonso Davies and Joshua Kimmich are on this list too.
Yeah. Kimmich is an interesting one. I don't know what his future is. I mean, he's 29. He's still a very good player. I'm looking at Transfer Market. They've got him at 50 million euros in terms of his value. If he's out of contract, somebody's going to want him. But what is that? If he doesn't stay at Bayern Munich, I would bet he probably stays. Davies is a fascinating one. How long has he been linked to Real Madrid? For how? Now, obviously, is Real Madrid going to go in the market and no transfer fees, right? This is kind of the way things have trended, is that you wait out a contract as much as you want to go out and spend money on a player. But is Real Madrid ready to sign Alphonso Davies and Trent Alexander-Arnold to be their fullbacks for the next 5, 6, 7 years? At this point,
They haven't ever really. They were probably pining for their Marcelo replacement, because he was a large part of some success there, and an all action fullback. I don't know if there is another our Marcelo out in the world, but that would be pretty intimidating to have that sort of creativity and pace and technical ability, and still youth. Obviously, having those guys in the squad, that would be pretty devastating.
Yeah, I think it's right now, Real Madrid relies on 33-year-old Lucas Vasquez on the right side, and I think they've had some different players roll through that left side. Yeah, it's not been solid, and obviously, if you get a Davies, you imagine if he can stay healthy, he's going to be your first choice left back most of the time. Again, coming back to the MLS, what do you think, Rob? I mean, who on this list makes sense as an MLS target? Because there's a couple of factors, right? Traditionally, not always, and I don't think anybody would put Carlos Vela on this in this category when he left Europe, the way that you're kind of describing some of these guys. We're talking about some really big names here. But Carlos Vela was sub 30 when he arrived, right? I believe David Beckham was, I don't remember, that's a long time ago, but I think he was sub 30 or just past 30. So can MLS find those players, or are they going to have to do that? Well, he's 33 and he's winding down, and maybe he's got 2 or 3 seasons, and let's see if he'll come over, and we'll have to pay him $10 million a year to do it.
So players kind of in that the elder category. James Rodriguez is out there. Neymar.
Is he out of contract this summer, James?
Yeah.
Because didn't he just join Rayo Vallecano? Didn't that just happen?
He's on the 2025 list. Maybe we can get some fact checking, but I think it might have been a 1-year contract. And I don't know. I don't think he's playing very much. So, and he's not too shy about bouncing around. So that one kind of raised my eyebrows. Neymar, if he wants to, we think I'd have to guess
massive pay cut if he leaves Saudi Arabia. And obviously injury has been probably, but I wouldn't risk it on Neymar. I mean, it'd be fun if he was healthy. I just don't think you can count on him being healthy, and that's your biggest issue.
I don't know if he's a big name draw, but another person kind of this category and age bracket, Alexander Lacazette.
I was just looking at his name. He's at Lyon. Lyon has massive money problems right now. They have that provisional relegation because they owe 500 million euros or something like that.
Yeah.
Alexander Lacazette is not going to move the needle at all, unless he goes to Montreal. And then maybe a little bit he moves the needle. But he's not going to get a lot of attention outside of that.
But for a productivity, he seems like he could still
If you
produce.
can get me Alexander Lacazette on something like $2.5 million in MLS, I mean, he's going to have to be a DP. I don't think he's taking non-D. He's 32, 33. Maybe if you can convince him to take a TAM contract, 100%, you try it. Absolutely. I don't know what his numbers are at Olympique Lyon right now.
And then the other name, okay, this is a good question.
5 goals this season for Alexander Lacazette in Liga.
Okay. That's something. But if there's a team in MLS that says optics be damned, there's a name on here. Marko Arnautovic could produce some goals on
this.
Just for the we need some more bad boys over here, right?
We need some more players to mix it up a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. Where is he right now? He's at Inter Milan, and he's filling in quite a bit at Inter Milan, right? He's mostly playing a sub role.
Yeah,
and he hasn't scored this season. Is that right? Do I have that right?
I haven't checked his stats, but just
hasn't scored this season yet. Five appearances, hasn't scored a goal, and that's 5 appearances.
So he could be a player looking for a new environment to thrive in.
He could. He's 35. Unless you're getting him on a budget deal, I don't think Marko Arnautovic is a guy that anybody in MLS should be. I think that would be a waste of money. in my opinion.
All right, one last name to throw out there, Juan Cuadrado.
Oh, I love Juan Cuadrado as a player. I love watching that guy play. Yeah, man, he's dropped
Currently at
off.
Atalanta.
Yeah, but and he doesn't. Does he play a ton at
Not
Atalanta
not
right
not
now?
too much.
He doesn't play too much, right? This is what I mean. His level has dropped off so much. Also, 36 years old, Juan Cuadrado. Okay, Arnautovic, I'm going to say no. But maybe a TAM deal for Juan Cuadrado. Give him a year. Sure, why not? Let's see what happens. It'd be fun to watch.
You're willing to roll the dice on that one?
Yeah, absolutely. Juan Cuadrado, just for a year as a. I mean, here's the thing: nobody spends that money on a fullback in Major League Soccer. Nobody spends that kind of money. Fullbacks are your lesser known names, your American players who get a crack at that. That's not a position MLS teams give big contracts to. Fullbacks. Who's the highest paid fullback in MLS? Could you even begin? I don't even think. No, I mean, who's the best fullback in MLS?
It would be the fullback that went to Inter Miami from Barcelona.
We're talking about Jordi Alba. That's true. Jordi Alba is the exception to this rule. That is a good point, man. But that's because they put the band together in Miami, the Barcelona group.
Definitely an outlier.
Man, I don't. I don't think. Yeah, I don't know, man. That's a tough one. Kai Wagner, is he sticking around? I don't know what he's doing. But again, that's a guy who was in the third division in Germany and comes over and makes a name for himself in MLS. There's some wing backs in the league that are that maybe that's where Juan Cuadrado plays. You have to find a team that plays wing backs, and you bring in Juan Cuadrado because he'll be much more of an attacking weapon from that position, obviously.
Moving on, long ball number 3 here on Wednesday. MLS Next Pro is expanding. Jason, the news of the week, Grand Rapids will join MLS Next Pro. And within that press release, it was also noted independent teams like Cleveland, Jacksonville Armada, and Connecticut United will be joining in the next couple years. So what do you make of MLS essentially creating their own minor league here?
Yeah, there's a couple ways to look at this. One of them is, hey, the league needs to grow. If they really want this to be interesting to anybody, it can't just be the reserve teams. It can't just be Chicago Fire 2 and New York Red Bulls 2 and Philadelphia Union 2. And man, I really hate the 2 part of this. I know that's the rest of the world kind of does this too, but I'm not a big fan of it. They got to add independent teams. And okay, Rochester didn't work. That was a complete bust. The other way to look at it from the other side of that equation is some of these teams, in the case of the Grand Rapids team, which I think is going to be called right now it's just called Western Michigan.
I think it's just a fill-in template. It's just West
right.
Michigan soccer team.
Let's not even get into the fact that the DeVos family is involved and the stadium's going to be called Amway Stadium. Let's not even start with that.
I was going to say, we can't shake those folks.
I don't want to. This is the thing, though. So Mike Thomas is saying, I question the ambition of any owner who is joining MLS Next Pro over a USL Pro League. I have to believe that this is a matter of financial questions, right? This is a matter of, hey, what's our lowest barrier for entry? Now, the DeVos family is not wanting for cash. I don't know exactly why they would need to save money on going pro. But I think for some of these teams, it might be, well, we want to make sure that this is a going concern for a long time. Can we justify spending more money to enter USL over MLS Next Pro? If indeed that is the price point question, right? I don't know what the price point question is for these ownership groups. The other part of this, the thing that upsets a lot of people, is that this is once again, we're back in the game of risk in American soccer, which is grab as much territory as you can. Everybody's got to go grabbing that, and it's not even necessarily, I think we can succeed there, or that's the best thing for soccer, or even the best thing for our league in terms of competitive level or whatever. It's we just want to make sure we have that market so nobody else can get it. We want to be there first, just in case that turns out to be a good soccer market. Papering the map, just adding dots because you can, rather than as a means to actually benefiting the game in the United States. At the same time, it would be naive as hell not to recognize that that's what we are in this country, right? This is my theory of what much of what's wrong with American soccer and how it grows is that it is always leagues, and leagues are businesses, and businesses think differently than if you have clubs who are choosing to get together to form a competition because we want to play games against one another, right? Which is how most leagues in the world were originally born. This, you would call it a franchise model and use it as a slur if you want, but the problem is we might not have soccer the way it is in America if we didn't have a franchise model. If MLS wasn't born as a league first and then, okay, let's figure out where to put teams, or let's figure out what our structure is. And here you have MLS doing what is sort of natural for a business in America to do, which is grow as a means of cornering the market, of controlling as much of your market share as you can. But that's probably not what's best for American soccer. So because we don't have this cultural responsibility to one another to do what's best for the game rather than what's best for our business always leads, you get this. You get Grand Rapids entering MLS Next Pro and putting out that like holder placeholder logo. Did you see it? It's not even a logo. It's just the badge, but they use the MLS Next Pro font, which is an abomination.
Yes, which is they've stuck with it for so long, too.
It is an abomination. This is why I question MLS Next Pro mostly. Okay, it's a reserve league and they're adding these independent teams, and what is this really about? Is it about a land grab? But really, I question MLS on the fact that they stuck with the damn font, which nobody can figure out what is happening there.
They're willing to step away from teams. They're willing to step away from leagues and competitions, but the MLS Next Pro font that is widely panned, they will stick with it. And what might answer the question is why MLS Next Pro and not USL. This West Michigan Soccer 2027 team is organized and is being launched by like the three families that own like half of Michigan, the DeVosses and the Van Andels. And the Van Andel family are minority owners in FC Cincinnati already, and the DeVos family already minority owners in Orlando City and the Orlando Pride.
Well, I mean, think about it this way too. It's not just about, hey, we want to start a soccer club in Grand Rapids because we like soccer and we like Grand Rapids. No, we want to be invested as people who think about their money in terms of investment in Major League Soccer. Right, and this is Major League Soccer as a company selling shares, effectively selling investment into their product, saying, hey, super wealthy people, you know what you should do? You should put some of your money with us because we're a growth proposition. That's what it is, right? I mean, you can't think of it any other way. And I know that it's kind of gross, and it runs counter to our feelings about the game and why we care about it. Now, and there's only so far you can kind of like be okay with that sort of mentality when you also recognize that this is how soccer grows in America, or it has. Now, is there another way for soccer to grow in America without this kind of mentality, without the investment first mentality? I don't know. Here's Harry. It's all about control. MLS and USL wants control of the system since USSF will not control the soccer pyramid. And here's the problem. U.S. soccer cannot control the soccer pyramid. U.S. soccer does not have the capability within the law to control the soccer pyramid in America. What they have is the ability to organize the national teams, and by virtue of their position sort of in that role, they can do the sanctioning for youth leagues and registering players and all of that stuff. But you've seen what happens, and they'll bring this into it too. The NASL has just named a new commissioner. Okay, you're like, wait a second, what? The NASL? Why do they need a commissioner? They don't even play games. They don't even have teams. Well, the word out is that we know for a fact there is supposed to be a trial next month over that lawsuit that Rocco Commisso and the NASL filed against U.S. Soccer and MLS. Right? That is still winding its way through the courts, and we were supposed to have a trial next month. Now, I've also heard, and I can't disclose where, and I don't even know if any of this is true, so don't hold me to it, but I've heard there's a possibility of a settlement, right? Because usually these things end in settlement before they ever get to trial. Nobody really wants to go through the disclosure process and all this stuff and risk a much bigger penalty than what you could settle for. And if U.S. Soccer and MLS and the parties involved in this lawsuit settle with Rocco Commisso and NASL, there's a chance the NASL could be revived. They could have the money to revive their league. And I can't say to Rocco or NASL, you shouldn't start. Don't start the league again. This is bad for American soccer. What are you doing? Because that's not how competition works in America. This is why U.S. soccer can't be in control, because as soon as they try to do any of that, somebody sues them. Right? And you could say, well, Rocco was right. U.S. soccer did wrong things with sanctioning and the standards, and they tried to force out NASL. But again, what you're saying is no one should have total control in order to dictate how our pyramid works. Right? But if no one has control, then everybody has a better mousetrap. Everybody has an opportunity to start their own thing and say, well, I know how to do it, and I don't care if there's already 8 operating men's outdoor professional soccer leagues in America. We need a 9th. And then we just continue with the chaos. We continue with the land grab. We continue with the cannibalization of American soccer.
Yeah, fracturing of just the sport in general, because, I mean, trying to explain to someone where everyone plays and how the competitions even interact is a whole handful. And this, both the growth of MLS Next Pro and the addition or, possible revival of NASL will only lead to more. I mean, the soccer romantics here in Michigan definitely were pulling for Grand Rapids to join the same league as Detroit USL Championship, but clearly not in the cards. Throw your opinion into the chat, guys. We've been getting some feedback on this one. Continue to do so. We'll revisit that. And in this whole idea of monopolizing competitions, we'll spill into our next segment. Before we get into that, remind you guys, hit the subscribe button. Hit the effing button is the theme for the rest of the year. We're trying to hit 500 by the end of 2024. The only Christmas present you have to get us is hit the darn button. All right. We're going to take a breath, come right back, and we're going to talk about monopolizing European cross-continental competitions. 1 second. Organization.
Can I say something, Rob, before you introduce this segment? Which I do want you to set this up for us, but I want to just say, we conceived of Culture Wars as an occasional segment on questions over the wrestling back and forth for control and various ways of doing things. And really American soccer first, but clearly this is not going to be about that. But I tell you what, we could do one every single show. We could absolutely do one of these every single show, couldn't we?
I think we've just been doing it about 90% of the time. There's throw another Culture War segment into the show because, the leagues and the competitions and the battle for the hearts and the pocketbooks of soccer just keeps on coming. This week, 822, you might remember them from such proposals as the Super League, have come up with another one. They are the 822, and CEO Bernd Reichart has introduced a proposal for the Unify League. What is the Unify League? It is a proposed competition with 94 teams from 55 countries to bust up the monopoly on cross-border competitions in Europe.
The numbers are tough. You say 96 clubs?
94, 96, something in the 90s.
This is their graphic from the Unify League. Let's also make clear that this is simply the Super League rebranding itself to try to sell again the idea that we need to reorganize international competition within Europe. 96 clubs. 96 clubs. And okay, so these are the graphics. Let's see if we can understand it, and then we'll go to Bernd and see if he can maybe explain it to us. Rob, is that a plan here?
Yeah, let's do
it on a morning kick around. Okay, so 55 domestic leagues feeding 96 clubs into the Unified League. The size of this thing is already off the charts. There is a Star League and a Gold League in the top level, the 32 clubs. I'm guessing that's 16. Why doesn't it say 16, 16, 32, 32 instead of 32, 32, 32 and then dividing 32 into 2 with Star League? I'm already questioning that. All right, here we go. Cross-border European club competition, qualification based on annual performance and I know what that is. That's the same thing as the Champions League. 96 participating clubs from 55 countries. Can you name 55 countries? in Europe? How many countries are in Europe?
I didn't know it was 55. I know there's more than you think because there's a lot of tiny micro countries and
I
stuff like
know.
that.
And I do
But
know that Ted Lasso taught us that there are how many countries are in this country? In the country of the United Kingdom? All right, there's that.
there's many of those.
Number of participants per domestic league based on European competition coefficient. All right. This is basically the Champions League, right? Seeded draw, quarter. This is the knockout stage, league stage. They're going to do the same thing that we've got going right now, only this is the Star Gold, so there'll be only 16 clubs instead of what do we have right now in the league phase? 32 clubs.
At least.
And yeah, okay. So they're the slides. Maybe Burnt can explain this to us better. Do you want to hear him give us?
Yeah, let's hear from very approachable, not at all sinister Burnt Reichart.
We reserve the right to pause, Burnt, at any point during this. So let's go.
For decades, cross-border competitions operated under monopoly. But in December 2023, football entered a new era. Thanks to the landmark ruling of the European Court of Justice, the landscape has changed forever.
All right, I'm going to stop us here. So this is, again, this is when the Super League was originally created as an idea. And we had the whole period where the English fans rather went bonkers, and the English clubs pulled out. But Real Madrid, Juventus, and a couple of us were like, no, we want this still. And there was a legal challenge to the control of international competition by the governing bodies, right? This is, by the way, this dovetails very nicely what we just talked about with American soccer and the problems U.S. soccer has tried to organize any sort of pyramid, right? Because if you say, well, we have rules about who can be a league and who can't, and here are our rules, and somebody takes you to court and the court decides that those rules are arbitrary, they can break your control, right? They can basically say you're not allowed to do that. Everybody gets a right to start a business to do this thing. Now, obviously, what's at play here is that the Unified League has to get everybody to agree to participate, which I think is a big hill to climb. But this is what he's talking about, that there was a ruling that said UEFA and FIFA cannot monopolize. But Rob, do you think that A22, the people that's who Burnt represents, are behind the Unified League? You think they want to share the wealth with? I mean, do you think that they want further competition from other international leagues?
Yeah, he seems like a guy that is definitely a free market guy, totally altruistic. This is not money driven whatsoever.
This is not money driven.
I do agree with Mike Thomas about the at least it's not closed off. I will give him that.
When you say closed off,
because the Super League was just like permanent teams that were there forever.
That's a good point. This is instead of a Super League where we take the best 24 teams in Europe and we play each other, or the biggest, not the best, the biggest. And it doesn't matter if UA finishes 7th, they're going to be in the competition.
Yeah.
You're right about that. That was a closed league idea. This is an open league. This is the Champions League. This is just a Champions League on steroids, but controlled by somebody else.
We've embraced this moment of change. The court ruling enabled us to engage openly with clubs, leagues, players, and fans. As a result, we have redefined our proposals and today send a letter to UEFA and FIFA initiating the process for official recognition of a new European competition.
I'm going to need Burnt to read a little differently because this is starting to get old. Here we go.
Our proposal, now called the Unified League, features a 4-league structure: Star, Gold, Blue, and Union.
Why Star, Gold, Blue, and Union? I mean, Philly fans are probably thrilled about that. But Star? Okay. Why the mix of colors and symbols and nouns? I don't. What is that? Why are we?
There's some boy in the fields of Austria dreaming to one day play for his club and win the Blue League.
He's really excited about the Blue. I mean, obviously, yeah, okay.
96 clubs from 55 countries will qualify annually based upon performance in their domestic leagues. The Women's Unified League features a 2-league structure: Star and Gold, with 32 clubs from 52 countries.
Okay, I will say this. Now, there is a Women's Champions League, obviously. But this is also that I mean, I guess at least they're thinking of a Women's League too and wanting to organize that. I mean, after what Jim Ratcliffe said over the last week or whatever that was,
Ooh, that's a whole nother topic. Jeez
I
Louise.
understand. But, remember, Jim Ratcliffe was like, they said, hey, what about Manchester United women? He's like, well, I wasn't even thinking about them when I bought the club. What?
That's
What? Let's continue with Bernd.
Recent competition have resulted in too many matches that fail to attract fans.
yeah.
To
Is
address
that a
this,
thing? Honestly, is that a thing? I mean, I don't keep a keen eye on Conference League, but whenever I watch highlights, all those seem to draw people.
I don't exactly know how you can make this statement based on anything, right? It's kind of just an opinion, like, oh, this is failing to attract fans. Well, based on what? Do we have evidence that attendance numbers have dropped? I don't think that's necessarily the case. Do we have
reframe, as far as what I understand, I have not really heard too many people complain that like the Champions League doesn't really work right and it's not satisfying my appetite for soccer competitions. If anything, it's like the adding more people roll their eyes at adding the Conference League. But I'm sure those teams that have that opportunity to play in probably enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, it's something, right? It's better than nothing. I mean, I don't know that can excuse a lot of bad things in this world. Well, something's better than nothing. But I guess, yeah, I guess part of this is we're going to get to the broadcast element here from Burnt in a second, which I think is important. So let's continue.
Unify League splits the top competition into Star and Gold, creating two highly competitive
It's still
leagues.
the women.
With
But no, he's talking about the men. He's still talking. Now he's going back to. Or was he talking about
Yeah,
the
he
women
was
at
talking
this
about because
point?
there's two tiers of the
Oh.
Women's League.
I still don't understand that. How can you say the top tier is two tiers? That doesn't make any sense. The top tier is two tiers? It's the top tier, but it's got two tiers within the top tier?
greater unpredictability, ensuring exciting matches throughout the season.
No. He was talking about how the Champions League or the competitions aren't attracting fans anymore, and now the Star. I guess I'm a little unclear about why this is better than the Champions League.
It will also bring back the football tradition of home and away in the early stages.
Okay, so this is saying, hey, the league phase is a mistake, right? The one that FIFA's doing now, or UEFA rather, is doing now with the Champions League, with the league phase, where you get a random draw of 8 teams based on pots to kind of spread out the quality of those teams. That's not what people want. What people want is to go back to the traditional way of home and away in what the group phase. He said the early stages, right? So, but I saw in our graphics that we threw up that there was a what does it say? 16 clubs, 2 groups of 8. Okay, that's the league stage. Why call it the league stage if it's groups? I'm confused.
The
Bert?
home of this competition is Unify, a direct-to-fan streaming platform. Unify will offer both free ad-supported viewing of matches as well as affordable premium subscriptions.
Okay, that's what this is, Rob. This is where we get to what Bernd and
The meat
company
of it all.
actually care about. They want to control the broadcast rights for games between the top clubs in Europe so they can make money. This whole thing is about the streaming platform, right? So when you heard that the Super League was rebranded as the Unify League, you were like, Unify what? Unify? Were they trying to unify? No, it's because they have a streaming platform that is called Unify. So the whole deal here, and again, this is kind of genius because what it's doing, now that they have the ruling from the European Court over the monopoly, that if they can entice some of the big clubs to leave the Champions League and join the Unify League, and then what you hope is that a critical mass comes over and then everybody has to come over. Because right now they have no buy-in. Like, maybe behind the scenes, some clubs have been like, yeah, if you can get that club, we'll go. Or maybe if you can get, that thing, we'll do this. But they're not announcing Real Madrid, Juventus, Barcelona, PSG have agreed to join the Unify League. They're not saying that yet. Right? The whole thing is an enticement. And what it is saying, you get more money from this than you get from UEFA.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Or we will revenue share. Our the way that we do the distribution of money is going to be different than the way UEFA has, because UEFA basically just says, okay, the money's all ours. And then, you made the quarterfinal? Well, here's a little bit of money. Oh, you made the semifinal? Here's a little bit more money for that. You won the championship, you won the Champions League, here's your prize money. right? And then this is very much like what happened with the Premier League. The birth of the Premier League happened because the clubs who were established as first division clubs in England were like, we're not getting enough of the money from the broadcast rights. We're sitting here at the whim of the FA. They get to decide what the broadcast rights look like, and then they divvy out money. We want control. We're the product. Why do you get to dictate to us how much money we can make off our product? And this is the same thing.
It will also improve the viewing experience at home by eliminating the need for multiple subscriptions while offering fans the advanced features they have come to expect. Finally, it will directly connect clubs with their global fan bases for the first time. Now is the time to improve football for the benefit of all, especially the fans. At A22, we are prepared to work with all members of the football community, including UEFA and FIFA, to achieve this goal.
Small note about European countries. According to the Googles, there's 44 countries in Europe. So,
But then you got to add Wales and Northern Ireland and Principality. I don't know. Monaco count? Does a Principality count? I mean, I don't know. Maybe the Vatican gets a team in this thing. Maybe that's how you get to 55. No, what I was going to say based on that, again, the continuing conversation about the broadcast rights. We're in this debate right now over whether or not Major League Soccer made a mistake going with Apple and sort of missing out on linear television, or not missing out, but dividing its audience, putting a lot of its product behind a paywall. Now, Byrne is saying that they will make games free. Remember, MLS does make games free on Apple. You have to go to Apple. You have to go to MLS Season Pass to find them, which means it was a problem of awareness for MLS. I don't think that if the Unified League manages to co-opt and create this thing and beat out the Champions League, they won't have an issue with awareness. Everybody will want to go find this thing because it will. Now, I can't imagine the Champions League and this can coexist, right?
No.
There's not enough time in the calendar for that to happen. So this is the global streaming play for a replacement for the Champions League that Major League Soccer made with Apple on their product, because Apple is international. If you're on the other side of the planet, you don't need to find, who broadcasts the games in my country. It's on the same platform that you were watching it in the United States. And this is that. This is people whose job it is to think about broadcasting and broadcast rights and streaming and the internet and all that stuff, who think there's money to be made there, saying global platform for our tournament that we're going to create with all the biggest soccer clubs on the planet.
And they're actually doing fans a favor by, putting it on just one convenient app like that.
It's going to be the best for everybody. It's going to be they're going to be able to connect directly with their fans. I mean, again, this is dumping tradition and history into the garbage can. And I'm no lover of how UEFA does things, certainly not FIFA, right? We have issues with global football governance. But this is replacing one bad thing with another bad thing. And as opposed, while FIFA and UEFA are absolutely driven by money and are craven in their pursuit of it, it is sort of this different mentality about, nominally we are the organizing bodies and we have a responsibility to the game. FIFA has that slogan, right? It's like for the game or whatever. They at least put pretense over what they do as they chase money.
Pretense is thinning. Pretense is thinning.
It's thin, but sure, you're right about that. And Johnny's done a ton of work to kill off that pretense. But this is 100% just about making money. Like this is just business. This isn't about the game at all. This is about using the product of football to make more money as we soar off into the stratosphere of what streaming can do for everybody's bottom line.
Yeah, just a minor note, and we are fortunate for Champions League coverage, just having it on the one platform. I know English and European fans do get gouged for many different subscriptions to Sky and multiple others. So in the States, we do well with having just the one subscription for European Champions League action. But we shall see. The Culture War segment battles on, and we'll move right along. Before we do, be sure to click that subscribe button. You're here, you're at the channel. Just hit that button if you're watching, if you haven't done so already. Help us march along to 500, our first goal to hit 500 before the end of the calendar year, and help our 2025 explode this morning, kick around, and join the movement of the MK Ultras. And like you see on the screen, follow on social media at MKickaround on X, Instagram, and Blue Sky. And we'll be right back with today's big question. Big question here on Wednesday. We received plenty of feedback from a video we put out. I think it was either on Friday or Monday. Jason, the big question today, were we off base with our conversation about the American bias?
Well, we certainly generated some response, and that's good. I mean, that's what we want. We want people to be talking, particularly in our comments. So we did grab a selection of comments off that video. I haven't watched it yet. Go find it. It does say, is there a bias against Americans in Europe? So we got some slides here and some comments. So you can see that is 032 Theo. Dempsey, McBride, Howard, and Friedel were decent over here. Donovan was shit in Europe. Part of the thing here is that, it's really hard to build nuance into a YouTube comment. So it's a lot of that. It's like, Donovan was shit. Well, okay, so Landon Donovan went to Bayer Leverkusen and didn't make it because he got homesick, and he's talked about this. And he came back, and he joined the San Jose Earthquakes, and then he played for the LA Galaxy. I think he tried again. Did he go back to Leverkusen after one stint in San Jose?
He did some loans at Everton, I recall.
No, I'm going to get to that. That's later on.
Apologies.
But, yeah, he, obviously later on, during the Beckham era, when Beckham was trying to go off to Milan so he could make the England World Cup team, Donovan did the same thing, did winter loans to Everton, and had some success. Now, was he like a dominant player? I don't think that's the right way to look at it, and you have to put Everton in the correct context, although they were much better relative to the league than they are right now.
Oh, by a long shot.
By a lot. He had some very good moments. Like, he hacked it at Everton for a short period of time in the Premier League. And any other reading of that is wrong. That doesn't mean that I'm saying he deserves to be recognized as an Everton great or anything. It's just that when we get to this place of like Donovan was shit in Europe, that's not true. Like he had bad times at Leverkusen, he had a bad time at Bayern Munich. Remember when Jurgen Klinsmann was there? There was an attempt to bring Donovan over on loan, and that did not go well. But he had moments, right? So what that says to me is that a lot of times your condition, and I think Pulisic is a great example of this, right, Rob? That you thrive in a place where you're wanted, where you're valued, where the environment is conducive to success. And some people may think of that as a strike against a player. Oh, you can't hack it anywhere? Like, no matter what team you're in, you should be good. And if you're not good in every single situation, then you're a trash player. That's nonsense. That doesn't make any sense. I mean, the human condition doesn't allow for that. I do like this one. Laughs in South Asian. You guys think you have it bad.
I do. I do. I saw this comment, and I do agree with them a bit. There are countries like way lower on the totem pole that get way worse biases against them. And seriously, like people over there have only in Europe, I'm talking about, have only just come around the idea that an Asian player can be good and be a big contributor.
Yeah, and we're talking about. I mean, even. And again, this speaks to the growth of the game in individual countries and its infrastructure and how they go about making players and whether they're good at it or not, right? And let's be fair about this, because again, we're going to get some comments that are saying that like we're whining or something, which I don't really get. American soccer has only been really producing players good enough to play on any significant level in Europe for about 30 years. Is that a fair 40 years? You want to be really kind about it, but maybe not even that. 30 years takes us back to the beginning of the 90s, right? And that's basically it, right? 94 World Cup. You had Wijnaldum in Europe. You had Alexi Lalas, who went to Italy for a season, I think. A couple of other guys played in Germany. But that's the beginning of it. Right? We just didn't have... Tab Ramos played in Spain briefly at Betis, but I think they might have even been a second division team at the time.
Harks.
Well, that's later. Again, well, Harks, yes. Harks in England. McBride around the turn of the century, right? And then this comment mentions Brian McBride. How many goals did Brian McBride score at Everton? Like, would you be able to tell me off the top of your head? I know they named the pub after him, but do you know how many goals he scored?
Not off the top of my head, but before we move on from Landon Donovan. My memory from Everton.
I mean Fulham. Sorry, Fulham for McBride, not Everton. He was at Everton briefly, but I'm talking about Fulham. Go ahead.
I do recall Landon Donovan highlight that made match of the day. He like bombed down the left wing and put a cross on a dime, and they're like, "Oh, this guy, that's American. He's all right."
Yeah, right. I mean, again, it's never a binary. It's never like he's trash or he's good. A lot of these guys, it's in between. So when we talk about the bias that that Pulisic was expressing, that McKennie was talking about, that Dempsey was talking about, what we're saying is that, these guys went to Europe, particularly, Dempsey, at a time when there weren't a lot of American players. And they're even if a coach thinks, I want to play the best player, what they're saying is when faced with the option of an American player or a European player, and they're basically on the same level, right? There's no clear way to distinguish between them in terms of their talent. Their sense is that the European player is going to get picked more often than the American, right? And I think all of us are guilty of some biases, whether we are aware of them or not. And to imagine that every coach on the planet is just picking the best player regardless, and if it was a blind choice, that if it was a blind choice, it'd be different. But there's profile here, right? And profile is something everybody factors in, even if they do it subconsciously. And I think
by
that's
no
what we were
means
trying to get to.
Yeah, and by no means is it American exclusive. I've heard like Paraguayan players like Almiron saying that like if there's a 50-50 choice between a Paraguayan and an Argentine, who's going to get the start?
And exactly. And no one would say, well, Paraguayan players can't hack it. No, that's not what he's saying. What he's saying is there are these ideas of what countries produce better players as a rule, right? It's like if a kid chooses to go to Boise State, and another kid, talking about American football here, chooses to go to Alabama, right? And they were both rated exactly the same coming out of high school. And they both had great high school careers. And you're saying which player is better? Your sense is going to be the Alabama player is better because he went to Alabama, even if the other kid chose to go to Boise State because that was a better fit for him. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and then coming out of there, like the Boise State guy has like mammoth stats, and the Alabama guy has like normal, achievements.
And
the Alabama guy's
people,
still going to have the higher reputation.
Plenty of people would say, oh, the Alabama player is clearly better. Why? Well, because he's from plays for Alabama, right?
He played in the league, the SEC.
Or if you want to make it more in line with this conversation, it's like saying, oh, that there's a high school player from New Hampshire and a high school player from Alabama or Texas or Florida. Who, if without knowing anything about the player, without even knowing what kind of players they are or watching them, your sense is going to be the Florida kid, the Texas kid, or the Alabama kid is going to be a better football player than the New Hampshire kid. That's all we're saying, right? And there's no malice here. But I just think, Mr. Hassel, if you were good, you're good. No one will care where you're from. I just don't buy that.
No,
I just
like
don't buy
if there was someone like an Erling Haaland that happened to be American that just like no doubt just scoring ridiculous amounts of goals, you don't think he'd just...
Where would he have to score those goals?
True.
In order to get to a place where you say, and I do think that this is not, there's no hard and fast rule, and not everybody is okay. There are plenty of coaches who are capable of looking past the origin of a player, whether that player is American. Somebody mentioned Australian in the comments. Let me go back to that comment because I think that's interesting. American players lack the technical ability you gain by playing on scruffy streets day in and day out with other skillful players who don't even become pros. It's the same with Australians. Americans play power football. That only goes so far. I think it's a very simplistic read of American soccer, but there's this idea. Again, this relates directly to what we're talking about. South American players, they get tested in these environments where they have to make a ball out of stuff, or they're playing on the beach, or they're playing in the streets. And American players don't get that. So I will take the South American player over the American player for that very reason. That's exactly what we're talking about, right? That's what that bias is that we're saying exists there. Anyway, I want to go back to the comments. All right, this whining is coming across a bit pathetic. Being honest, you guys are clearly inflating the quality of people like Dempsey. Decent, but not enough to be at a top team. Football is a meritocracy. Just look at the number of players from random countries across the world that play in Europe now. If you're good enough, you will make it. That idea that like, oh, there are a couple of players from smaller countries in Europe, therefore there's no bias. Again, that generalizes the entire picture of European football rather than being specific about there are clubs who have made an effort to go and find players from lesser football countries or lesser regarded football countries because that is a potential advantage for them. Right? If you're the club smart enough to say, well, maybe there's some American kids, or maybe there's some Australian kids, or maybe there's some whatever, South Asian kids that nobody else is identifying as possible, then we can find ways to bring those kids through and benefit from that. We'll have an advantage in that marketplace because challenging or going after the kids that are coming out of higher quality footballing nations, higher regarded football nations, means you're in a financial battle with those players a lot of times, right? It's just, and again, okay, this is a good point for Mike Thomas. Domestic players in Europe get just more chances by nature where they are from, more chances to show, more chances for the big hit, right? It goes back to my analogy with the New Hampshire football player and the Texas football player. More people are paying attention to Texas football than they're paying attention to New Hampshire football, no matter what the talent of the kids are. So just by virtue of that, you're going to, that player is the player I want. Quality of competition, you're trying to do this calculation, et cetera, et cetera. Again, no one is saying that American players won't get opportunities in some places. 100% they will. And it's slowly getting to a place where maybe the bias is less and less impactful on the fortunes of American players. But I think it would be ridiculous to deny that certainly in the past, and maybe still on some level in the present, there is at least a little bit of that, Americans can't play. And we played the video where all of those people at the pub were saying, you can't name a player that you can name. You can't name a player that you can name. You name me a player that you can name.
But then a lot of those same people will say Pulisic sucked at Chelsea. Yeah, you named a player.
We had a comment, actually, from somebody who said...
and that's the nuance that we're talking about, that it's difficult in the current era and the platform that this is on. It is hard to say, have a nuanced view or express it, or people maybe aren't able to express it. But okay, things didn't go glowingly altogether for Pulisic, but when he was healthy, he went on some good runs. Right. But then ultimately, it didn't end well, and he left.
Yeah. So much of this is opportunity, right? So much of this is circumstance, right? These are individual players telling us about their anecdotal experiences, and that only goes so far, right? That shouldn't be taken as, well, that's true everywhere because Dempsey thought that he had a difficult time because he was American, or Pulisic has thought that it's been a thing for him. That doesn't mean it's everywhere. It just means that in some circumstances, in some quadrants, in some areas, and look, again, I think all of us American soccer fans, and I know some people watching this video, the comments are not American, and I'm glad we got your perspective. I think that does help. But I think every American soccer fan has had a situation where they've run into somebody who is from a more traditional football country, and their assumption is you don't know a damn thing. You know nothing. You're American. You don't. It doesn't matter. I watch every single game. I watch the Champions League every year. I have a Premier League team. I follow this. I follow that. They will still believe you cannot possibly know more than them because they come from England or Spain or whatever. That is exactly what we're saying here. That's where the bias is also being expressed when it comes to players. It's the same idea.
Yeah, no doubt. And the conversation continues, but I almost think this whole thing I think this whole episode, all the segments today kind of point to the same thing as, there's a battle for the heart of the sport that we cherish, and maybe the infrastructure of the American game isn't providing us with enough of the domestic American players to truly impact the generalization of the American player.
Can I also throw in, let's put a bow on that subject and move on to something, just a little bit of extra time bonus here. I don't know if you saw this, Rob, but it is now out there that the Haslam family, who own the Columbus Crew, are going to move their game with Inter Miami on April 19th to Cleveland to play in the Browns venue to maximize their ticket sales for a potential Lionel Messi visit to Cleveland.
That is a move. I'm actually really blown away that Miami hasn't done the Hard Rock thing, but it's wild that away. That's an American soccer's weird topic. Team moves venue to accommodate support or visiting team fandom.
Yeah, I think that the issue in Miami is that Jorge Mas maybe doesn't get along with Stephen Ross and the group that own the Dolphins and control Hard Rock. So there's a lot of factors going on there.
Rich dude
That's
problems.
just wealthy people not liking other wealthy people, or just business interests not coinciding, not connecting. Here you have the same people who own the Browns owning the Crew, and they have taken this opportunity to move a game away from the city that they're based in, away from Crew fans essentially, to cater to thousands more people who maybe will just show up to see Lionel Messi for for a game if he plays. So again, this is ridiculous. This does not give anybody any comfort over the future of their teams and the future of the way soccer is run in this country when they make decisions like this. And whatever might be good. Let's go back to Unified League, or let's talk about the things we touched on with some of the other topics on this show. Right? Whatever might be good for the business that you run, it doesn't mean it's good for the soccer and the fans and the people that really do support your club in ways that make it possible for you to own it and have it be a success. And I'm not talking about the people, the looky-loos who show up and buy a ticket to see Lionel Messi. I'm talking about the people who buy season tickets, who have been going to Crew games since Ohio Stadium in 1996.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. Like, reminder that the Browns owners own the Crew. How did they get successful with the Columbus Crew being so good since they've taken over? That is, I guess, a surprise. I wonder how Cleveland Browns feel that. How did our guys get the soccer thing right? And we've been banging away at the American football thing for decades, and can't get right.
I just got a response on Blue Sky. This is the only way for the Haslams to make their money back from the Watson contracts.
That's actually really funny. I love that. I really like that. It's like, just keep on filling the Brown Stadium for soccer games to pay that back.
Nobody knew, Rob. Nobody knew that giving Deshaun Watson that contract was a bad idea. It's a surprise to everybody. Nobody knew.
All guaranteed. And in a sport that barely has any guaranteed contracts, that's 8 years at $1 bazillion every year, and they can't get out of it. They'll bankrupt their team if they try to avoid that. But no such misfortune for the Columbus Crew under the Haslams. Another note before we depart: congratulations to University of Vermont, NCAA men's champions. Who saw that coming?
The Catamounts. Go Catamounts. It's a great name. Love that.
Never count out the Catamounts.
That's right.
What is
Never count them out. It's another name for a mountain lion. Puma, mountain lion. I'm missing some other names. People know other names. There's lots of names out there for cougar. Cougar's a name, right? It's all the same animal. Catamount is just a version of that.
Show your strength of a puma and hit the subscribe button, I say. Morning Kick Around on our way to 500 subscribers. That is the first goal on our way to 50,000 subscribers. Be the next. And, show your strength of a puma and join the MK Ultras, America's, foremost conversation. And a segment I do want for the future is, where is the American soccer conversation with the fracturing of X and all the other social media platforms? Should we make this show the home of American soccer conversation?
We can be that round table, I guess. We can be the place for it to happen. I mean, if you want to join Blue Sky, and there is a growing group of soccer fans on Blue Sky and soccer journalists and people, you can follow the show, M Kick Around, and I'm at Davis Jason for me. There you go.
All right. I think Wednesday's been thoroughly kicked. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and participating. Lots of great comments today, and we will see you Friday. Enjoy your soccer.